And we're back, folks. Another edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider postseason style. Once we get into the postseason, we do these every couple of weeks or so. And so now tis the season to be talking about, coaching rumors, to be talking about, uh, you know, guys entering the draft, uh, portal options. That is a season in and of itself, right? So joining me to talk about all those things as they relate to Michigan basketball, like he does every time so well. A guy who wore the uniform for the Maize and Blue, was a first round draft pick out of the University of Michigan, played in the NBA for 10 years before putting on his broadcaster hat, where he does an excellent job as well. Talking about my guy, Tim McCormick. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing great, Sam. Happy Easter to you and your family. This is always a fun time of the year. It seems like a million years ago that the season ended, and I spent some time the other day. I started getting a little antsy, and I started looking at the transfer portal, identifying guys that I've seen that I like, guys that were at the top 100 camp. And then I said, forget this. Like, it's such a waste of time because we have no idea what the roster will look like based on the fact that Hunter and Caleb and Musa have big decisions to make. And that's going to drive what Juwan Howard and his crew are going to do.
You said a mouthful there, Tim, because I look at the portal just like you look at different guys. Adam Miller went in. I was like, yeah, you brought him up one of the last episodes. Like, man, that'd be a great shooter to add. Antoine Davis just went in the portal, and my phone blew up immediately when he went. It's like, hey, is Michigan going to look at Antoine Davis? And my reply is, they don't have a scholarship, Tim. Like, they literally don't have a scholarship right now to be able to offer those guys. It's that limbo like existence that they're in right now, where they're waiting for their guys to decide for sure, like to know without any sort of equivocation what they're gonna do, and that word hasn't come through yet. And you really can't move on other guys until you know for sure what's going to happen with the guys that are on your current roster.
And I believe that they won't have scholarships. I think there's a good chance, and I think I said this right away, that I think that two of three will return, and three of three is a possibility. And also I believe our coach will return as well.
Yeah, so let's start there, because that was the hot rumor late last week and early into this week. Now, Janine Howard, I thought, threw a lot of cold water on it by
Yeah.
saying, I wish they would stop saying he wants to stay to coach his sons. These are all our sons, and he wants to coach all of them. That just furthered the opinion for me that it was highly unlikely that he would follow through on that. I think you got to listen because it's the Lakers, right, Tim? But the idea that he would leave to take that job right now in this moment, this always seems a little far fetched to me.
When I heard the rumor about Juwan to LA, I had a pretty good laugh. It makes sense because of Rob Pelinka and LeBron James and his relationship. It really was a good thought, but I can come up with 10 reasons why it's really pretty comical. And the first one is Jet and Jace. I think it's one of the greatest thrills to be able to coach your sons. And Joanna's had a lot of amazing and impactful and meaningful basketball experiences. When he's an old man sitting on the rocking chair on his porch, thinking back on his life, I really think that he's going to say that coaching his boys for Michigan, his alma mater, is one of the greatest experiences that he's ever had. In terms of money, Juwan's worth what, 80, 90, maybe more $1 million. And so going to LA and getting those big NBA coaching bucks is not going to matter. He's already got that. And when you think about the fact that when you're looking about the LA Lakers, that's such an amazing, prestigious opportunity. I like Wayne Ellington, and Avery Bradley is a nice guy, and Dwight Howard and Malik Monk, but it's different. I think that Juwan really loves the mentoring component, to be someone that can build relationships and shape lives. And Juwan is an accountability partner where, he gives the guys a vision and he tries to help make it a reality. I think that's a big part of who he is. What else? The roster is a big problem. LeBron's 38. AD has health issues. Russell Westbrook, there's all kinds of rumors about him. They need shooters. So that's a problem. Like, why would you take that job? And then, is it a prestigious job? It is. It's a destination job for sure. Living in LA is awesome, but it doesn't do you any good because of a limited roster. You're going to get fired in 2 years. So that doesn't make sense. And then maybe the most important thing, like when my wife comes out and is definitive about something, like I make note of that. And like I know that it's important to make good decisions. And so when Janine basically came out and she had a big old bucket of water and she threw it right on top of it and said, no, this is not going to happen. So one thing though, I mean, Sam, don't you think that Juwan will someday coach in the NBA?
I think it's a very strong possibility. I'm not one to speak for him and what he's going to do. I don't know where that ranks on his priority list, but just from the outside looking in, my personal expectation, yeah, I think he will. I think just reading enough and hearing him talk about uh, coaching in the NBA. I remember hearing the comment that the only college job he would have come back for was Michigan. I think he'll want to test those waters at some point. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. You start with what we've talked about here so many times. You coach Kellen,
Mhm.
and it's like I hear when I see you talk about that. I mean, it almost feels like that's your best basketball. I mean, all the great basketball success you've had, Tim, your first round draft pick, star at Michigan, 10 years in the NBA. The look on your face is different when you talk about coaching your kid, man. There's just you can't put a price tag on that, especially for someone who has more money than he can ever spend. And so you start there. Now, I said I understand the Lakers are that is the premier franchise in basketball. I understand listening to that, but you laid out the circumstances on that roster. LeBron is going to be there another year. Period. I think he's going back to Cleveland personally. AD has had injury. Let's assume that AD is healthy. Even if you get a LeBron at 100% and AD at 100%, Russell Westbrook
Hmm.
is an albatross. I don't mean this in any disparaging sense, but his fit on this roster is bad and it's not going to get any better. And you can't move him. He makes $47 million. You're stuck there. And the five coaches since Phil Jackson, Tim, none of them have gone past 3 years. None of them. Mike Brown went one. They had a couple go 2 years. Frank Vogel got fired after 3 years and he won a championship.
Hmm.
You are not going to last in that job with this roster. So you can look at it another way too, Tim. Turn it down now. You can get that job in 3 years, right? Because it's going to be open, right? This is how it's going to go with the Lakers.
Yeah, I actually would love to see Juwan coach in the NBA, but not yet. It's unrealistic to think that 20 years from now he's still going to be coaching at Michigan. It's just I just don't see it happening. He's a great leader. He's an ambassador. He's been groomed for this, and I think that he has unfinished business. Look, go ahead and take us to a Final Four and beyond, and we'll drive you to the airport and say thank you, thank you,
Right.
thank you, and that would be a great thing. And Sam, you're right. Coaching my son, helping out with my daughter in volleyball, those are the greatest memories. Um, I was sharing with somebody just the other day, and I think you'll appreciate this, that when Kellen was in second, third, fourth grade, and he was really getting into it, it was a day like this time of year. It was in the spring, and for Christmas I had received a new desk chair in my office, and so the old one was in the garage, and he said, "Hey, Dad, let's go shoot." And so it was hot out, okay, and so I said, hey, let me grab my rebounding chair. And he said, what's a rebounding chair? And I just pushed the chair out and I sat it under the rim and I said, here's the deal. I'll stay here as long as you want. I'll be here till dinner if you want. If you make the shot, it's going to land in my lap. I'm going to throw it right back to you. And if you miss, it's going to roll down the driveway and you've got to go get it. And so for hour after hour, we sat there. And the greatest thing about it is he was just stroking the ball and wasn't thinking about what he was saying. He was just sharing from his heart. He was talking about girls at school and the teacher that he didn't like and what somebody said and asking innocent questions. And man, it was so incredible to be able to make that connection and to also be able to share, a sport that I love so much. So those are the things that Juwan has coming. And remember, he may not have really fully embraced them with both Jace and Jet because he was on the Miami Heat coaching staff when those guys were really growing up. He may get himself a rebounding chair, Sam, and set it up at Chrysler Arena.
Well, listen, I bet you, I bet you not 1 year of their basketball playing lives has Juwan seen every game, every one of their games. I bet there can't have been a season
Right.
where that's true.
Never,
He's
never.
he's gonna have that now. So, and I want to be clear when I talk about, hey, it just doesn't make sense. I'm not talking about it not making sense from the Lakers standpoint. Like I think Juwan Howard, he could go coach the Lakers and they would be better. I truly believe that. You need someone like Juwan to manage the guys, the egos on our and can keep them in check. Like there are very few coaches I think that can manage a roster like that. Spoelstra can do it. I mean, you see him challenge Dwayne Wade when he was there. You saw him getting Jimmy Butler's face this year, right? He could do it. Pop could do it. I mean, there are a few guys in the NBA, but it's going to take a guy with the kind of clout of a Juwan Howard, the kind of respect that he commands to be able to get the most out of that roster, to get the kind of buy-in. So I get it. I get why he's a candidate. And I think he would do a good job. He wouldn't win a championship because no one can with that roster. No one can win a championship with that roster. So again, it's not saying that Juwan wouldn't make them better. He absolutely would, but that's a perilous circumstance, that roster right now, that no one is going to be able to coach past. So that's what I don't want to downplay. No one can do that job is really what I wanted to get. It's as far as the championship level is concerned. So that
And,
that bodes well for Michigan because that all lends itself to him coming back.
and remember, the roster doesn't matter. LeBron doesn't matter. $12 million a year doesn't matter because Janine said, no, you're going to coach your sons and you're going to finish this out. So thank you, Janine. Good call.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, you put that aside, coaches aren't going to be able to use that. I was a little concerned that, is that going to be something that they can lay the hammer down that might affect them when it comes to the portal? I mean, you aren't really looking to fill out with any 22s right now. It's really the portal considerations and recruiting to a certain extent. But you're still a little ways away from those guys. By the time the guys they're courting make decisions, this window will have closed. The window with a lot of transfers is right now. And like I said earlier, Tim, this is one of those deals where they just cannot move. They cannot be ultra aggressive in the portal like some other programs can because they don't know if they're going to have any space. And I got to give you credit because I remember when you first mentioned the possibility of Hunter coming back, and I was like, man, what did Tim have to drink today? Like, where is this coming from? But you saw it. It had everything to do with what the NBA, how they view Hunter's fit. And you went over that to a large extent on one of the past episodes. But it bears bringing back up because we got a chance to see Luca Garza here and there over the course of the season and a little more as they were coming down the home stretch of the year. But that sort of feels like, to your point, how the NBA would view Hunter. Does it not?
Yeah, I've really thought all along that Hunter would return, and that was even after Before the Air Force football game, we talked, and Hunter told me, he said, I'm going to leave. I'm going to the NBA after this year. And I thought, cool, that's great. I'm anxious to see how this plays out. But I had a lot of questions. Look, I think that Hunter is really a smart guy. He's got some money in his pocket, right? Through the NIL. I don't know what his deal is, but life is good for him. He's literally the big man on campus, and he's very popular. He's having fun. He's got a car, and I think that he's the type of guy that can really appreciate the campus environment. I think back to my college experience, and it was a lot of fun. The NBA was thrilling, but there's no doubt it was a job. It was an entirely different feel, and the performance pressures in the NBA are just incredible. So I think that Hunter knows that long term, this is good for him. And I was also thinking about this. Bear with me because you're going to roll your eyes for a second. But I think that Hunter, his advantage by coming back to school long term is I think he can become a little bit like Ralph Sampson and Patrick Ewing and David Robinson and Alonzo Mourning. Okay. Not that caliber of player in terms of being a future Hall of Famer, but by being the best center in all of college basketball. And the reason that's important, if you stay in college for 3 or 4 years, you let the fans fall in love with you. They get to know you. Some of the fans, they cheer against you. Your home crowd loves you to death. And what happens along the way is you win titles and you dominate and you grow your game. And maybe most important, I'm glad you brought up Luka, you become a legend. And that's the great thing that Hunter has a chance to do. And Sam, when I broadcast the Pistons pregame and postgame show, I'm always amazed at when Luka comes in the game, and he did a nice job this year. Luka played 30 games in the NBA. He had 3 games where he scored 20 points. He did a good job, but I think that when Luka comes in the game for the Pistons, the crowd cheers the loudest for him of anybody on their team other than Cade Cunningham, right? They know him.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they know him? Well, these are Big Ten fans that follow Michigan and Michigan State, and they've all seen Luka play in college, so the familiarity is there. And he's a lot like Hunter Dickinson. He's not as big, but he's a force inside, and he is really skilled, and he's improving. And I think Hunter will continue to move in that direction. And those guys are friends. And I know that they've talked. It's not easy the way Luka is up and then down. And, he's on the G League tonight and tomorrow he's playing the Pistons. And he loves to play, so that's great. But that's why I think that it might be a good thing for Hunter Dickinson to try to become Patrick Ewing and dominate college basketball for 4 years. And then I think he'll get his chance to play in the league for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a phenomenon that we'll see with big guys. Big guys sort of making the decision to play the long game, understanding. And I'm talking about big guys like Hunter that aren't the super athletic run jump guys. They might be, more fit. There's something. Maybe they aren't quite tall enough, or they don't seem to be as twitchy,
Mhm.
like the switch everything big man that the NBA sort of emphasizes. But you look around, Armando Bacot is coming back to college. There is huge talk out there that Oscar Schwebe is going to come back. Now he's going to test the draft process, but Tim, I mean, you're talking about the National Player of the Year. Talking about, I mean, seriously contemplating, and Kentucky people say leaning towards coming back to college. I mean, it gets to what you're talking about, building up that legendary long play status, NIL. opportunities, and it sounds like some things are being worked out for Schwebe, so he can take advantage of that too. But you can maximize some earning potential right now because those guys, one, two, maybe all of them would be G League out the gate. Why not stay, get some money, build your legendary status, and still take that same shot at the NBA once your eligibility is up?
I just think that the college is a really good breeding ground for young athletes. I think we're seeing it a lot in hockey, right? That's why Michigan's hockey team was so dominant, is that a lot of the NHL teams said, look, we know you're going to be really good. Go develop your skills and come to us as more of a finished product. I think that Armando Bacot has some things that he needs to work on, including how to lead your team even better. Oscar Shibwe, I did a couple of his games when he was at West Virginia. He's a raw talent, but if you continue to refine him and he comes into the league as a top 10, top 12 pick, he's going to make a lot more money with that course as opposed to being, a 25 pick or even lower.
Yeah, so that bodes well for Michigan if Hunter's thinking along those lines. And full disclosure, talked to a couple of really really good team sources, and they said, hey, he's at least giving the impression to those in the program, to folks in the program, that he's going to be back. Now they all stop short to say, hey, he's definitely coming back, but just the impression that they're getting so far is that they at least think that he's leaning that way. Now we know how leanings can change, right? Got to wait to see how he comes through that process. You got to believe, Tim, having gone through it already, having seen Luka's path, you got to believe that he probably really does have a good idea what he's going to do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm a big believer in building that legend. And like DJ Wilson has made a lot of money, right? I'm sure that he's probably enjoyed his time, but where's he at? I don't know. And where's he going to be next year? I don't know. He may be in Belgium for all we know, because he came to the league as an unfinished product. And I made a comment on Twitter during the NCAA tournament that the NBA is not a developmental league. And there were a bunch of people that were saying, what are you talking about? All they have to do is work on their shot all day. They don't have to go to class. That's not true. You can't get the kind of work on a G League team as you can working with Juwan Howard and being at the top of Iowa's scouting report when you play them on the road. It's hard to go to the league and get reps. And my rookie year, I wasn't playing the first 2 months of the season. I hired a guy that went to the gym. He was a good ball player. We played one-on-one and full court for hours so I could try to stay in shape and still, try to fine tune some things. The NBA is not a developmental league. Okay. They play a ton of games and you just don't get the reps that you do in college.
Yeah, man. I mean, I didn't plan on going this route, but it bears a mentioning. I wonder if Isaiah Livers gets this deal that he just got if he leaves a year sooner. I mean, he came back and really showed himself as more of a scorer, even more of a shooter. And even though he got hurt at the end, and while he had to, he had to get some G League time in, you got to believe that extra year preparedness put him on the track to win. His number was called by the Pistons. I mean, man, as soon as they caught him up, he got in the game. He's hitting threes like out the gate. Tip, you watch. It's like, oh man, he's showing that he belongs right away, and the Pistons are talking like he's a part of their future.
Sam, he is very much a finished product, and I give John Beilein a lot of credit. Before games, I watched the way that Isaiah Livers has been able to indoctrinate all of the John Beilein stuff into his game. Automatically passing to the outside hand, his footwork and his balance when he shoots, all the things that Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham are trying to learn. Isaiah Livers already got that from his college experience. And so I personally, if I was drafting NBA players, and this is counter to what a lot of teams do. They want the youngest guy possible. They'll look at Killian Hayes and say, I want that guy. He's only 20. He's got so much room for growth. I kind of like the guy that's 23 and is going to help me win right now, because the guy that's 20, he may not be any good till he's 26 or 27, and he's probably playing on another team. I have no problem with players developing in college.
Yeah. I liked Tyrese Halliburton. I'm just saying that was the guy that I was saying they should have picked with that pick, but hey, it's water under the bridge now. Musa and Caleb. And we talked a little bit about them in passing before. But again, when I say they don't have a scholarship to offer, that is because it has really, you talk about the possibility of all three coming back, that has really become a thing. Like that is a distinct possibility. I thought that was no way that would happen early in the year. Now you talk to people in the program, no, that's legit. I'm not guaranteeing, and I know you aren't either, Tim, that will happen, but the talk is that it's extremely possible. So that being the case, what do you think? What do you think of Musa's prospects? What do you think of Caleb's prospects? What are NBA teams saying about those guys right now?
So Sam, I haven't had a Pistons game in a couple of weeks, but I've spent the whole year talking to NBA scouts about both of them, and I also remember Musa when he was at the top 100 camp. I have memories of how athletic but how fragile and frail he was, and I see how much he has grown, and it gives me a lot of confidence that Musa is going to be an NBA player. Loads of potential and upside. And I can't really predict his path right now, whether he's going to leave. But I do know that Juwan is a relationship builder. And I think that Musa trusts Juwan and likes his mentoring. And I think that when Juwan says, if you come back, I'm going to make you better, and I'm going to make you into a lottery pick, I think that Musa believes that. I do think it would be good for Musa to put his name into the NBA draft and test the waters. There's a lot that you can learn by going through the interviews and going through the combine testing, and then to be able to play against the other guys that are considering it. When I say that about Musa, if he listens and will come back, how nice if next year, rather than being 6'11" and 210, that he could be 235. And I do think that his frame could develop that. I think he's got to get a lot better, just a lot of reps at setting that elbow screen and rolling to the basket for a lob. He's got to become a better rim protector. And I think that his form is fine. I think last fall I was telling you that in their closed workouts, he can make a three. We didn't see it, but his form is fine. And he just needs 1,000 shots a day to become that. And once again, if he comes back and Caleb is back and Hunter Dickinson's back, Michigan's back competing for a Final Four next year.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about. I'm only going to tell this story or make this comment because Phil uttered it on the air. He said, when I first saw Moose, I'm talking about Phil Martelli. He said, when I first saw Musa shoot, I thought the building was going to fall down. He was tossing up so many bricks. That was Phil Martelli. That's not me talking. But he said that to talk about how much more comfortable and how much more consistent he got in practice with shooting jumpers. And so if he can make the same sort of progress that we saw Hunter make, shooting the basketball, wow, and if he can make the same progress as a passer, because they were really sort of restricted in terms of role definition when those two were on the court together. Musa had to be the guy in the paint. It had to be, Hunter had to be the one away from the basket. They just, the consistency of passing, of post entry, Hunter was better at that. If Musa can make it so they're more interchangeable in that circumstance, then that adds to the versatility of the guys up front. What about Caleb?
So I didn't see Caleb. He didn't come to the top 100 camp. But I believe that out of the three players, he is most likely to return to Michigan. and based on what he's experienced, on what he learned this year, I think he's going to have an amazing summer. Um, and I kind of go back to what I felt as a freshman. Um, I learned so much, and the game was so fast for me, and I could never really catch up. And once my freshman year was over, I couldn't wait to get in the gym. As a matter of fact, the very next day after we were eliminated at the Carrier Dome against Jim Boeheim and Routens and Roosevelt Bowie and all those guys, I was at the IM building playing in a pickup game against Anthony Carter and John Wangler and all the football players. I knew I had a long way to go, and I was so enthused to play. When you look at Caleb, he didn't live up to our expectations at all. And I thought that he was going to be an all Big Ten player, and he wasn't even close to that. But he did some pretty good things for a freshman. He played in 34 games, and he averaged over 30 minutes per game. And he led the team in most threes attempted and most threes made. He averaged double figures, and he's 6'8", 200 pounds. He might have been less than that, after the wear and tear. And so I look at Caleb Houstan, and I feel like, look, the goal should be really easy next year. Be one of the top 15 players in the Big Ten and bump that three-point shooting up a little bit closer to 40%. And you're a lottery pick, which means that you're playing major minutes, maybe even starting as a rookie from day one. And if you go this year, you'll probably still be a really good NBA player someday. But in the short term, you're going to be sitting on buses and flying commercial, and it's not as nice as it is playing at Michigan in Ann Arbor. And I think they get a lot more gear, and there's no NIL in the G League. So I think that Caleb is smart. I think he's got a really good relationship with Juwan Howard. And whereas, like, I saw Max Christie, who led the team in minutes and shots, he left because I don't think that he and Tom Izzo necessarily got along very well. I think that Caleb and Juwan get along splendidly.
Yeah. Hearing the same thing and concur 100%, man. Hopefully it works out.
Hey, Sam, do we have time? I have two topics that I'd like to close with, if it's okay.
Sure, go for it.
So the first one the second one I'm going to talk about is the calendar and why that's such a challenge for Juwan in his roster management. The first one is for you. Can you explain why there are not opportunities to grab a player in the portal now? I think it's important because the roster fluctuation is so hard to figure. Brandon Johns left.
Right.
Okay. And, there's always a possibility that another player could leave. What needs to happen for Michigan to grab another guard?
So you need to have one of those spots open up by someone deciding to go in the portal. Is really the long and short of it. Their scholarships were taken up by the recruiting class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you knew that you were going to have some roster attrition, some natural roster attrition this year, and so now, I mean, if Brandon had decided he wanted to come back, you would have. I think they would have had that allowance because he could
It's
have
a
used his
COVID
COVID
player.
shirt. He was
Yeah.
a COVID player, and that's what would have allowed you to do that. But you can't go over with new guys. So until they know for sure that they have one of those scholarships open, I mean, you can talk. Can they talk to guys in the portal? Sure. So I'm just throwing this out there as for instances. Let's say they have some interest in Adam Miller, or they have some interest in Antoine Davis. You can talk to those guys, but you're talking to them about a possibility. Whereas other programs are talking to them about, I have a scholarship right now. Are those guys going to wait for your situation to clear up versus following through on a real life available opportunity over here? That's the quandary. That's the tough spot that Michigan is in right now. They just can't move definitively in the portal and offer scholarships until they know they have a scholarship to offer.
So you answered it like I thought you would, and it's very easy to understand. Juwan Howard may want one of his players to leave because he needs another guard, and the challenge of that is the calendar. So you've got until I think the day. Let's see, 1 week from the day after. Let's see, a week from Easter is the key date. And that's when you have to put your name in whether you're going to go test on the draft combine. The teams decide who they want to be at the combine. So if Hunter or Musa or Caleb want to go, they'll all get invited. The next big date is May 16th through the 22nd. That's the draft combine in Chicago. They go and they interview with the teams. They do the testing. They do the shooting drills. And that's really hard when you have to scrimmage also, because the guys there are playing for a spot in the NBA. They go really, really hard. Who struggled with that last year was E.J. Liddell, and that's why he went back to Ohio State. So the really important date, and this is amazing to me, June 13th. That's the early entrant withdrawal date.
Oh, wow. It's the 13th. I thought it was the first. Good grief, man.
Yeah, I can recheck that, but I think it's June 13th.
Man.
And I don't think that Michigan's players will wait that long, but that can tie up your whole summer and just kill your recruiting, because guys want to get to their campus and find out where they're going to live and get some new gear and meet their teammates and work out with the coaches. June 13th is a long time to wait and keep your roster in flux.
You will hope, and this has to be what the coaching staff is hoping, that maybe the guys, have some idea earlier than that and can let them know before June what they want to do. That might just be wishful thinking, though.
Right. And there's no doubt that Juwan may tell some guys, look, you're not going to play here. Maybe somebody that's on the roster, or he may say to one of his three big guys, look, we can't tie this up the whole year. Make your decision. Either, come back or go to the draft. And we love you either way. But Michigan really needs to find a way to add a guard, because if they don't, you can have all the big men you want, but they're gonna have a hard time covering people in pick and roll next year.
All right, so went to the NBA site, and that's the definitive one, which is probably the one you cited, Tim. Says, hey, it's the 13th. NBA early entry entrant withdrawal deadline, 5 p.m. on June 13th is the date. You just hope that it doesn't go that long. Hope these guys figure it out sooner than that, and then that'll give that, if Michigan needs the flexibility in the portal, then they'll have it. They'll have the opportunity to go out and maybe still pluck a guy or two that can come in and help them. So we'll see.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to break down tape with you on Terrence Shannon or Sam Sessoms or Adam Miller until I know that there's a roster spot. I don't even want to go there.
I hear you. I will. To all of you who sent me messages about Antoine Davis, I'm sure Michigan would be interested if they had a scholarship, right? I mean, that guy gets buckets.
Maybe he can walk on. That might be a whole new thing, Sam, with NIL, that guys can pay for their own college with their NIL money. That might be something to look at.
That could be. That could be. So, Tim, was there another one that you want to hit before we got out of here?
I'm done. I just want to wish you a happy Easter, Sam.
Likewise, my friend, to you, to Michelle, to your whole family. It is just a thrill ride whenever we get a chance to sit down together and talk Michigan basketball. I thank Michelle for letting us get some of your time, man, because
she doesn't know, Sam. She thinks I'm out making leaves.
All right, man. Well, like always a blast. Looking forward to the next edition of the Michigan Basketball Insider.